Torah is really there for all of us. And the Shavuot is the time that we really accept the Torah, and it's wisdom, which is really, it's really an instruction book for living. We accept it once we accept it any day of the year, but especially on Shavuot. This is when God gave us the Torah. And Ruth really teaches us this lesson of accepting the Torah and taking on and connecting with God through the Torah. And I was thinking, I'm seeing all these pictures online now, and everybody's posting all their like Pride for Israel pictures. And I was thinking, like, the best way to really show your pride for Judaism is to show your thirst for understanding Judaism, for the knowledge of Judaism, to be thirsty to know more about Judaism. And that's really what Shavuot is all about. To just have that little feeling of like, I want to know more. And that's just the beginning. Because once you start tasting it, it's so beautiful and so exciting. And we'll hear more about that from Stacey's story. But before we introduce Stacey, I'd love to introduce my good friend, Jody, who is partnering with us as a leader in NCSY and reaching out to so many women. We are so proud. The Thornhill Shul is so proud to partner with NCSY and especially Jody Burkell. And I'd love to have Jody share some words before we begin.
So, hi everyone. Thank you, Frady. And really what I wanted to say, I'm going to admit, are you admitting?
I'll admit.
Okay, you're admitting.
Yeah.
I'm off the hook for a few minutes. Basically, what I wanted to say to everyone is that those of you who know me, there's one line that I say I would think more often than anything else. And that is, when I speak about the Jewish people, I always say we are Am Echad B'Lev Echad. We are one nation with one heart. I believe that message, I would say, more than anything else, and I want to share that message more than anything else. And friends, when we received the Torah at Har Sinai, the Jewish people were so unbelievably united. We were one, and that was a prerequisite for us receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. And so it's something that it's such a privilege to be coming together with the Thornhill Shul. And Frady, thank you so much for partnering with NCSY. It's extra special. This is the holiday of unity. Like, this is it. Okay, so we're united, and we're going to go forward and just continue it every single day. We're not going to ever forget that message, no matter where you are, who you are. A Jew is a Jew, and we're all family. And that's what Shavuot teaches us. And it's just an honor to be here with everyone. And the reason I really wanted to partner today was because of the power of stories, the power of stories. And more than, giving a class, really what touches us most deeply is hearing from someone. Their personal journey can inspire us and teach us more, I think, than, just a regular run of the mill. So I'm honored to be part of this. Thank you for the opportunity, Frady, and thank you everyone for showing up, being here to support us and to hear from our beautiful friend, Stacey. Frady, take it away.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you, NCSY. And it's so true. The stories are so powerful, and that's why the Torah begins with stories. There's so many beautiful stories because stories are the things that's going to keep Judaism alive. And when we put our kids to bed at night, we should definitely start with stories. Stories is what's going to keep it going. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Stacey Anbar. Stacey Anbar, besides for being a very close friend of mine, is a registered social worker. That's why she's such a good friend, because she's such a good listener. But registered social worker, financial therapist, and life coach. She's the wife of the funniest guy on earth and the mother of 4 amazing children. Stacey works full-time as a child protection manager and runs a private practice specializing in providing support for individuals and families. And we are so excited and so eager to be inspired by Stacey. Stacey, take the floor.
I'm not sure what you told people about me, but I feel like when you're saying you're admitting people, it's like you're admitting them to the psychiatric unit or something. Congratulations, you made it to the psychiatric unit with Stacey Anbar. Thank you so much. I'm really in shock right now how many women are here. I thought maybe 5, maybe 10. I'm seeing like my closest friends who I haven't seen in such a long time. It's really, really beautiful. If you can, please turn on your camera. It really would mean a lot to me. It really helps me connect. I'm very much a person who feels energy, and when I can't see a person, it's hard for me to read the energy. So if you can, that would mean a lot. If you can't, I totally understand. Who knows what's going on back there? Believe me, you do not want to know what's going on back here. Okay, thank you so much. Just a quick thank you to the Thornhill Shul, which is really my home. That's where I grew up as a baby, in the Thornhill Shul. I was privileged enough to be part of that community, and I still feel like I am part of that community. Rebbitzin and Rabbi Mendel are a huge part of our life to this day. And NCSY is also a phenomenal organization, and Jody is also a dear friend of mine, so I'm really grateful. And the reason I said yes to doing this was because they're both very good friends, and you say yes to friends sometimes. So we're talking about stories, and I really battled, to be honest with you, the whole day today. I'm really not a person who prepares a lot before I speak. It's just my thing. It drives my husband nuts. Like he said to me already 2 days ago, what have you prepared for your thing on Wednesday night? I said, I haven't prepared anything. He goes, are you nuts? And I said, yes, I'm a little bit nuts. Why? Because I tend to prepare something and then I feel differently at the time. So I really struggled in the last couple of days with thinking about, what am I going to talk about? Like, I'm just a nobody. Like, you guys are my friends and you must love me, but in my heart of hearts, I'm really just a nobody in this world. It feels like that sometimes. And it feels kind of fraudulent sometimes to feel like that. It feels like, I know I'm a good person. I keep the 10 commandments. I haven't killed anybody. I don't steal. I'm not an adulteress. Like, I feel like I'm good, but it still feels fraudulent sometimes. And, we have to battle this urge to get through the fraudulentness, to realize, Frady and I are working on the Siddur now, and I'll tell you a little bit about that after. She talked about the idea of Modeh Ani, when you wake up and realizing that the whole world is presented to you when you open your eyes in the morning. Like to me, to Stacey Anbar, the nobody. It feels kind of incredible when you think about it like that. I didn't deserve it. I yelled at my husband yesterday. I yelled at my kids yesterday. I didn't save anybody in the world yesterday. But yet when I woke up in the morning this morning, all of a sudden the world is in front of me. It's pretty humbling, pretty incredible. So I thought I would share a story about a woman. Some of you have heard this story before. I'm sorry if you have. You can go on to National Geographic for a couple of minutes and come back in 5. It'll be over. But this story is about a woman. She has a name, and her name is Brenda. That's her name. So let me tell you a little bit about Brenda. So Brenda was a non-Jew, okay? And she was born in and raised in an amazing, hardworking family. And her parents were hardworking. They persevered through wars. They persevered through the Depression. They were just simple-minded, educated, good people. Okay, so Brenda had a brother, and her parents spent a lot of time raising them the best way they knew how with the tools that they had. And they grew up in a really nice home, in a really nice community with access to the things that most of us hopefully have had, which is good education, good parents, and a really, really nice place to live. So in her mid-20s, Brenda met and married her husband, and several years later, they had a baby. And Brenda thought to herself, you know what? I think I've got it all. I've got a house, I've got a car, I've even got a cottage. I've even got a motor home in the driveway, and now I have this cute little baby. Isn't it amazing? You can feel like you have everything. And she felt that way. She felt like she really had everything. When the baby, though, was 6 months old, Brenda began to feel lonely. Some of us The 6-month stage is a little rocky. I don't know if you remember that. I do. It's a little bit rocky. It's like you haven't really seen the light yet. You know it's there, but like you've been changing like insurmountable poopy bums for 6 months. You're exhausted and it's really hard to see the light. Okay. And this is the stage that Brenda was in. She felt lonely. Okay. She wanted connection and she thought like, is there more to my life than just changing poopy bums and pee-pee bums all day long? Is there more to life than going grocery shopping and cleaning the house again? Like, isn't there more than this? What did she want? What did she want? She wanted to feel important. She wanted to feel like she had meaning in the world. And she wanted to feel like herself again. Brenda was a beautiful woman. And she was, you know, on the cheerleading squad in high school. She was, you know, Miss Popular, Miss Athletic. She had a lot of things going for her. And then all of a sudden she has all these responsibilities. It was very, very hard on her. Okay. So what she really wanted was a place in this world. She wanted to understand, where does she fit in here? Okay. So she began to hang out with some new friends. And these new friends decided that they were going to entertain themselves with a weekly card game. I know it sounds crazy. We don't play cards anymore, but back then, cards was a big thing. I never played cards, but I think if you ask your mom or your grandmother, cards was a big thing. I remember Yahtzee. I don't really remember cards, but I remember Yahtzee. If anyone here was born in the 80s, like, didn't all of our parents play Yahtzee? It's really, and Mahjong, yes. Or Mahjong, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, those were popular things. So these women decided, you know what? Let's get together. Let's play some cards. You know what? Let's add a little sass to this party and let's drink some wine. So after several months of going to these, you know, weekly mommy groups, which is what it was called back then too, Brenda decided that it just wasn't enough to drink on a weekly basis. And she started to drink more than with her friends, and more than once a week, and more than her husband even knew. And she started to hide it. And it became a very, very big part of her life. So what happened to Brenda? She became depressed. She became anxious. And this new problem she had took on a life of its own. What happened to Brenda is it became a full-blown drinking problem. So it started as feeling lonely. It evolved into realizing, you know, I'm not sure why I'm here. What am I doing here? What's my purpose here? I feel like, you know, all I do is change diapers all day long. That's not me. That's not who I am. And then it evolved into a big problem. So where is Brenda today? Brenda's story, unfortunately, does not end well, unfortunately. So there was no happy ending to this fairy tale. And her drinking habits lasted 40 years, unfortunately. So she lost everything, her marriage, her children, herself, and nothing was left. She was on a roller coaster that just did not end. Okay. It's a pretty heavy story following up Frady and Jody's inspiring story. So why am I telling you this? For those of you who've been to my classes, I tend to use kind of depressing stories sometimes. I don't know, maybe it's just part of who I am. It kind of gives over a point, and that is the point here. The point is that this woman, Brenda, was my mom. She was my mom, and I was her daughter. And this is how my life changed as a result of that. So why am I telling you about my mom? You know, it's a traumatic story, but it is no different than any of your traumatic stories. It's an experience that shaped and catapulted me into a life that I never imagined for myself would ever happen. But I do want to talk about something called the roller coaster that Brenda was on, that I feel, even if you disassociate yourself from feeling like Brenda did, I still believe, you know, from working with thousands of women at this point in my career, I've been doing this for 21 years, that there's a part of us that always feels like her, that always feels like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And why am I on this roller coaster over and over and over again? So I'm here to tell you a little bit about this roller coaster so you can get to know the roller coaster you're on, so you can decide and figure out the tools to lead yourself to a life of peace of mind. That's the idea here. What does peace of mind look like in our life? What does it look like to us? Each one of us is going to have a different idea of what that is, but I want you to open your mind to think about what real peace of mind feels like, okay? So I'm going to read something from this incredible book. It's called Your Awesome Self. It's highly recommended. Honestly, this book is incredible. I'm learning this with Women Weekly. There's, 16 of us that are learning this book weekly. It's just a phenomenal book. I highly recommend it. And this is what it says. You know those tracks? You sit in a little car and it takes you up and down and around. You have no real say in where it goes, how fast it moves, or anything else about it. I don't mean a physical roller coaster. I'm talking about the ups and downs of worthiness and shame. Back then, I didn't know how worthy I was. Subconsciously, I was constantly evaluating myself, judging myself. I'm good. I'm bad. I'm a winner. I'm a loser. I'm successful. I'm a failure. I'm a nice person. I'm the meanest person on earth. I'm socially smart. I'm complete awkwardness. I'm a fountain. I'm a drain. I'm a good girl. I'm a bad girl. I'm a very, very bad girl. I measured my worthiness by the things that happened to me or by the opinions of other people in my life. If I was successful in what I was doing, I decided that I was respectable. If I failed, I was in a muddy puddle of shame. If I respected a person, his or her opinion about me mattered. If I pleased them, I could do anything. If they were upset with me, I could do nothing. Up and down, back again and around. That was the engine of my roller coaster. Maybe it's the engine of yours, or maybe the engine of your roller coaster looks more like stress, anxiety, jealousy, or resentment. When you're on a roller coaster, who's in charge of where you go? Who's in charge of how good or how bad the ride is? Not you, right? You're just the rider. And when the ride isn't that great, there's not much you can do to make it better. The switches get pulled by someone else. The most you can do is hold on tight and scream. I'm sure you know what that roller coaster feels like. And if you're anything like me, you might have never even realized that there was a different way to be. As I grew into my role as a wife and a mother, I was proud of my ability to ride the roller coaster gracefully. I could tolerate stress and push aside or ignore feelings of resentment. I could smile and speak kindly even when my heart was bursting with misery. I thought that was a pretty noble way of living. At the time, it never occurred to me that there was an entirely different way to live, an entirely different way to live, a wonderful way where life couldn't be compared to being on a ride, a way of being that's like a journey on a road where we could walk or crawl or dance through life with genuine dignity and inner peace, no matter what else is going on around us. This is the epitome of what it feels like to be a woman. I'm convinced. My whole job from 9 to 5 and plus is to walk women through this absolute roller coaster ride that we all feel like we're on sometimes. And so the question is, how did I get off my roller coaster? Because I was on there for most of my life. So this is what happened. So as my mom's alcoholism took over her life, my father made a decision that at 5 years old, he was going to take me out of this situation. which in fact changed my life. It changed the course of my life with that one decision to remove me from that situation. He got remarried 5 years later to a Jewish woman, and they raised 5 of us together as a blended family. So when I was 22 years old, listen to this shock of a system. I went on a date with my husband, who's now my husband. And we're sitting in the parking lot of this restaurant. And he said something to me that I will never forget. He said, I just want to let you know, I can't marry someone who's not Jewish. I'll just let that seep in for a second. You know, I'd lived 22 years of my life with this idea that I was Jewish. Now remember, my mom was not Jewish. So as you can imagine, I was just a little bit shocked, and a little bit of some other things. We won't get into details. And I was confused. And I turned to him and I said, what are you talking about? First of all, we are on our first date, so get over yourself. Like, why are you even talking about marriage? We're on our first date. Like, just get over yourself, buddy. Second of all, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm Jewish. You must be mistaken. And he turned to me and he said, listen, Stace, it's a little bit complicated. Okay, so if you've ever been on an awkward date, like you have never been on an awkward date if you didn't have that conversation in the first 5 minutes, that's called an awkward date. I do not recommend it, okay? So what happens? I was back on the roller coaster. I was back on the idea of who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing here? What's this life about for me? Okay. The roller coaster, the loops on this roller coaster were a little bit higher, just a little bit. The gravity pull was stronger, but this time I was able to control the pace and the speed, which was a little bit different than growing up with an alcoholic mother. That was the difference. So what happened? We decided to go on this journey together of going through the conversion process, which didn't take 6 months. Didn't take a year, did not take 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. It took 4.5 years, 4.5 years of blood, sweat, and tears. I had the most incredible things said to me. The waxing lady I was going to at the time told me that no matter what I did, my husband and I would never be buried together because I was just a convert. These are things, you know, when we talk about the impact on people's lives, I don't even remember this woman's name, but I remember what she said. And I remember how it felt. And I remember thinking, here I am back on this roller coaster. How do I get myself off of this? Just get me off. Okay. So we decided, there was one decision we made during that journey that I want to talk a little bit about. We decided to go from one island to the next. We decided to go from what this woman describes as Otherness Island to Awesomeness Island. Okay, so Frady, I need to pick on you just for 1 minute. I'm not going to ask anyone to volunteer because you might lose them forever if I pick on them. Frady, you got a new van recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's inside the glove box of your van?
Probably the books and the manual for the car.
Okay, great. So did it come with your car or did you have to buy it separately?
No, it came with the car.
Okay, have you ever read that manual?
Nope.
Why not?
I don't know. I just went in. I just tried it out.
Okay, thank you. You can mute yourself now. Okay, it's enough interrogation. How many of you have read the manual inside of your glove box? There's obviously going to be one. Of course, Danielle Steinman, you're one of them. There's always like one person in the group, no matter how big it is, that has actually read the manual. Is Danielle the only person? Probably. Of course she read the manual. Okay. So one day I'm driving my car and this light starts flashing. That has all happened to all of us, right? Like this weird light on our dashboard, it starts flashing. And I'm like, what is that light? I don't know what that is. Oh my gosh, maybe my car's going to break down. I need to go to the mechanic who's 35 minutes away. So I drive to the mechanic in Etobicoke. I pull into the parking lot. I'm like, Mr. Mechanic, I have like 10 minutes. I have to go pick up my kids. Like, can you please tell me why that light is flashing? And he said the following: why didn't you just open up the manual? It would have told you that it just means that you need more pressure in your tires. And I'm like, okay, pull out of the mechanics, drive back on the 401. I'm like, oh, why didn't I just think of that? Why didn't I think of that? Why am I telling you this story? Every single one of you who's been born as a Jew has been given a manual. It's called the Torah. Not only has it been given to you, you had it all along, but you forgot that you had it when you were born. So the things that you learn about, you kind of remember them because you knew them to begin with. Now, why is this an important part? Why is it important for me to talk about this? Because I didn't get the manual. I wasn't given the manual. It didn't come wrapped up in a nice little folder, and it didn't smell new and plasticky the way when you get a new car, the manual's all like pristine and the pages are perfect and crispy. I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any of that. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is because this woman, Brenda, she was missing that. She wasn't given the manual either. And she grew up on a different island, an island of no community, an island of no connection, an island of no relationship with her creator. No one ever taught her that that existed. And she did everything like a machine, like a robot was expected to do. And that's not us as Jewish women. That's not us. That's not us. So what is Judaism? Why do we need to know about this manual? Why? The reason you have a manual in your car is to tell you about the gear shift D4. Danielle Steinman, because you've read the manual, what does D4 do? Please tell us, enlighten us. She's trying to unmute. So now you're Googling it. No. She doesn't even know. Okay, how many of you know?
I said I would have to check. I would go into the table of contents.
Yes.
And look it up.
Okay, does anybody here know what the gear D4 goes for? What is it for?
Is it for off-roading?
Okay, maybe it's for off-roading. It could mean that if you press that button, you could go into turbo booster mode and you wouldn't even know. So why does the manual even exist if we're not going to read it? The manual of our car exists to bring our car to its most optimal level. Woo, what a profound thing. If you want your car to work properly and you want it to last a long time, all you have to do is read the manual. It sounds so simple. Yet, we have this beautiful manual called the Torah. It's like right at our fingertips. It doesn't belong to the Shul. It doesn't belong to the rabbi. It doesn't belong to the people walking down Bathurst with big black hats. It belongs to us. It's ours. We own it. It was given to us. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to pay for it. It's right there. And guess what? If you want peace of mind and you want happiness in your life, you have access to the thing that tells you how to get there. You know, it took me years to figure that out. I don't even think I figured that out until probably maybe 3 years ago. You know, we talk about quote unquote being religious. Being religious doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. And so I thought, you know, what kind of tools have I learned through this idea of being on and off the roller coaster, understanding the purpose of this manual and what role it's supposed to play in our life. So here's the tools. Here is the key. If you did not grow up in a Torah observant home, you are late to the party. Remember those parties? Those really fun ones? Yeah, that we had them once upon a time. I remember them very well. Nobody wanted to be really late to the party. There's such a thing called fashionably late, but there's like a part of the party that you need to get there kind of on time, because if you don't, you're going to miss all the fun. Oh, and by the way, if you don't get there on time, it's going to be too crowded and they won't let you in. Does anybody remember that? I remember that. That was back in my old life. Okay. So imagine you show up to the party and there's these people there and they're confident and they're dressed so nice and you're like, holy moly, do I really fit into this party? I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if I really fit into this party. And they talk about this place. It's like this magnificent place, like Bora Bora Island. I've never been to Bora Bora Island. Like, I'm for sure not going to fit in with these people. And you're late and you show up and the security guy at the door, he's looking at you and he's got his arms crossed and he's like, yes. And you're like, can I go into the party? Can I go? And that's what it feels like. It feels like that sometimes, to learn about Judaism when we have never learned about it before. Oh, and if we learned about it before, but we didn't learn it in a healthy way, it also feels like we're late to the party. So Frady, you said something to me this morning. Listen to this. I'm learning from the Siddur, okay? Like I said to her, just pretend I'm the dumbest person on earth and teach me the Siddur from the beginning to the end. And she said to me, Frady, this morning at the end, this is incredible. Like, it's like you're learning Chinese. How are you? Like, I'm spelling out ba, ka, ki. And she's listening to me. Frady, thank you for keeping your composure. I think I would have lost my mind. I sounded crazy. And she's like, it's like you're learning Chinese. I don't know if I'd be able to learn Chinese. I have to correct you. It's worse than learning Chinese. It's worse. You know why it's worse? Because you feel like you should already know it. And there's a part of you that wonders, like, am I too late for this party? Has this ship sailed? Is it too late for me? And then you realize, you know who the security guard is at the front door? It's Hashem. He's like, don't you worry, sweetie pie. You're here with me. And you're never, ever, ever too late for the party. And as the person who has to do ba, ka, and do that every week with Rebbetzin Hoffman over and over and over again, it feels like I'm really late to this party, but I don't care. Because I know that this is part of the manual. And the manual says, if you want to connect, try learning Hebrew. If you want to connect, try working on your midos, your character traits. If you want to connect and you want to feel peace of mind, try pushing yourself just a little bit harder. If you're dressing tznius, dress a little bit more tznius. If you've never lit a Shabbat candle in your life, just go to Sobeys and buy some. Don't even light them, just buy them. Do something that's hard. Do something that's hard and push through the feeling of wanting to leave that party. Just push through it. See what happens. Number 2, understand that there's lots of things we don't know. And as humans, this is a big, big, big problem for us. It's hard for us to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to fix my marriage. I don't know how to fix my relationship with my parents. I don't know how to connect to my kids. I just don't know. So what do we do when we don't know? We open ourselves up to vulnerability. We open ourselves up to accepting something. You know, we're talking about Shavuot. We open ourselves up to accepting something that we don't even understand. And in this beautiful manual, it says, if you don't know something, go find out. Call your rabbi, call your rebbitzin, call your mentors, call your friends. Find out, why do I feel like this? Why can't I connect? Vulnerability is the foundation of success in happiness. I'm convinced. I'm on a crusade to tell everybody that. If you've been to my classes, you've heard this over and over and over again. Until we become vulnerable, until we say, I don't know, we will be blocked in our life. And the beauty of the Jewish community is that nobody wants to block you. And the mitzvah is asking for help. That's the mitzvah. Okay, number 2. Number 3, I'm watching the time. Frady, just kick me off when you need to. Number 3 is, guess what? CNN news flash, you're all converts too. Ha ha ha. You know why you're all converts too? Because every day we make decisions that goes away from the Torah and back to the Torah, and away from the Torah and back to the Torah, and away from the Torah and back to the Torah. And we go up and down and around and on the roller coaster, off the roller coaster. Does God exist? I don't know. Things are good today. Yes, he does. No, things are crappy today. No, he doesn't. Stomp, stomp, stomp. We stomp our feet. That God doesn't exist. Why do I have so much pain? Why do I have so much hurt? Why did this happen to me? We're all converts. Every single minute that we make a decision to go back to what was given to us, which is the Torah, which is the manual in our life, this gem, this billion-dollar diamond that is, there is no worth. It's like, I asked my son, what's past $1 zillion? He's like, $1 gillion. I'm like, okay, and then what? And then what? And he's telling me all these terms. There are actual terms for these things. And I'm like, you know what? I said to my kids, okay, fine. I'm going to give you $1 gillion. We're going to live in the biggest island with the biggest house, the biggest pool. We're going to have a roller coaster in our backyard. But guess what? You have to give up Shabbat. I'm sorry. It's part of being on this island. There's no Shabbat there. And of course, what did they say? No, Mommy, you don't want that island. It's no fun. But you have a roller coaster. You have 2 cars, you have a Lexus, a Mercedes, a big house, restoration hardware. If there's anybody who's in love with restoration hardware, it's Miss Stacey Anbar. Do not put me in that store. I feel like I would give up everything in my life for restoration hardware things, like a candle, even just a candle from there. I would give up everything. Okay, we all have our flaws, but guess what? Hashem is not meant to be in our Pesach kitchen. I always felt this feeling that I would put Hashem down in the kitchen, in the Pesach kitchen, when things were good. And then when things are bad, it's like, oh, we have to get ready for Pesach. Let's pull everything out, all the containers, all the boxes. Let's make a whole big dramatic production. Let's invite Hashem back into our life. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. What I started to realize was that was part of being on the roller coaster. Understanding that this manual exists every minute of the day. Every minute of the day, Hashem has to be part of our life. Even when you're stomping your feet at him, even when you're angry, even when you're sad, even when it's unfair, even when you're in pain, he wants a relationship with us. That's what he wants. And I realized that getting off the roller coaster meant that I made a decision to reach out to Hashem every time something felt unright. And I wanted to thank him when things went well. And I wanted to reach out to him when things weren't so well, when I was in pain. The last thing I want to say, and I hate even using this word, like honestly, I'm so sick of this word, but I'm going to say it anyways. The big V. Don't forget about the most important vaccine in our life. You know, we will turn the world upside down to get not the AstraZeneca. Oh, God forbid we get the okay. The Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, whatever they're called, we will do whatever it takes, figure out our whole schedules, our whole day is revolving around how to get this vaccine. And what has happened is we've become distracted. We've become distracted from the real vaccine. Remember that day before the C word came, the day before Purim, the day when none of us knew what Corona was, except we knew it was a beer? Remember that day? Remember the next day when the whole world flipped upside down? What happened there? Was that because of us? Yet we forget that Hashem can flip the whole world back upside on the right side. We forget about that part. We forget that Hashem has the best vaccine of all. It's called protection, but he wants a relationship with us. He wants us to remember that he helps us get off the roller coaster. He helps us feel less lonely. He helps us feel less depressed. He helps us connect to our children, to our spouses, to our friends, to our parents. All we have to do is go to that place in our heart where the manual exists and ask someone to teach it to us. And thank God that I found the manual. I was late to the party. But that manual means more to me than anything else in my life. It's my guide, it's my teacher. It's when I feel a certain way, I just need to open one of these up and all of a sudden I've got the answer. So the reality is I really shouldn't be charging money for therapy because I could just tell people, just look in the Torah, I will help you with all your problems. So what do? I bring this into my sessions and I say, you have the tools, you already have them. You not need to be paying me to do this. I'll help you get there, but you have this beautiful gift. Ladies, on Shavuot, I asked my rabbi the other night, like, how do we find the energy? How do we find the strength to cook again? Oh, to cook again. Cheesecake for me is like one of those intimidating things. I can pull together a Moroccan salad like you've never seen, but you put me in front of cheesecake and I just shrivel up, like just kill me. I cannot do cheesecake, but I'm going to try. Okay, on Shavuot, I want you to have one thing in mind. What does this manual mean to you? Really? What does it mean? And if we're not sure, meet with a mentor and find out. Make a decision to push through something that's a little bit harder. If you're struggling with doing something, do it. Push through. Find a way to do it. And then celebrate this beautiful gift that we've been given. I had to work for it. You didn't. You're 4.5 years at least ahead of me, at least. So enjoy your party. You're already in the party. Thank you so much. Really, it was really a privilege to speak in front of all of you.
Thank you so much, Stacey. That was so beautiful. I wanted to just post, I just posted that if anybody has any questions, please feel free to post your questions over here. Well, Jody and I will try to facilitate. I do want to ask Stacey, I remember you telling me how you started keeping Shabbat and you had like that little Shabbat room. I wanted you to just expand on that. And I know that, now you can look back and say it's like so normal to have Shabbat in your life, but how did you get to the place where you're actually keeping Shabbat? Like, I know it took you 4.5 years. So what was that journey like to start to begin with something?
Okay, so it's not what got me there, it was who got me there, and it was Tony Soprano. Tony Soprano from The Sopranos got me to keep Shabbat. You want to know why? Because when I decided that I was going to stop driving, I decided that if I'm going to stop driving, I'm going to watch The Sopranos for 26 hours and nobody's going to stop me from doing that because I was going to do it one step at a time. And I watched Tony Soprano for 26 hours. I'm not kidding. It was like this show was my new religion and I did it week after week after week. And then I realized Tony Soprano really wasn't so interesting anymore because I had started going to the Goldreich's house, which was a rabbi down the street. And I started to realize, you know, this thing called Shabbat, the word that I had no clue what it meant. I promise you, at 22 years of age, I had no idea what the word Shabbat meant. I had never even heard of the word. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And I thought, you know, what is this thing called Shabbat? And so what I did was I did things very, very slowly. And I got a recommendation. And the recommendation was pick a room in your house and make it the Shabbat room. You can drive, you can talk on the phone, but not in the Shabbat room. You cannot put your keys in the Shabbat room. You cannot turn off and on the lights in the Shabbat room. It's the Shabbat room. And you can keep it the way it is for 26 hours. If you want the lights on, you keep the lights on. If you want a little lamp on, you keep the little lamp on. But it's the Shabbat room, and everybody knows it's the Shabbat room. If you want to come into the Shabbat room, you have to leave all electronics outside. And that's how we started. We started very, very, very slowly. We started with the tools from our mentors that they gave us and said, you need to try this, and then move slowly, 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 slowly. It was not a fast moving roller coaster. It was a very slow ride. And we did that purposely so that we wouldn't, you know, fall off the rails. Really, at the end of the day, we had to really genuinely believe that this was going to be part of our life. And that's what we did.
It's so powerful. I think that's such a great tool to start with, even with anything that we're trying to do, just to like sort of make a space for that place to grow, you know, like you want to make sure that you work out. Like I always want to try to make sure that I push myself to work out every day. So I keep my sneakers next to my bed because I know if I put my feet in it, it'll make me move, you know? So if like we just put ourselves into a space, we can really, you know, I think that if we make a space for growth, like what you were saying, like just to make a room, a Shabbat room, or whatever you're trying to take on, you know, like this is my patience room. Like in this room, I'm patient. This room, I'm calm. You know, we could even do that for our children. Like, okay, mommy needs some time alone because this is my patient room. I'm working on my patience here, you know, and it could be like your space, and you could put nice, beautiful candles and a nice smelling thing. And I remember you saying something so powerful, like when you have little children and you're making a Shabbat room, like you buy like their favorite games, their Shabbat games, and you fill up you have your nice, beautiful wine next to in that Shabbat room. Anything that's so special to you and so beautiful to you, you make it, you put it into that room and you make it special and beautiful. So I think that's something that's a very, very good tool to take on with whatever you're doing, right? Whatever you're taking on.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I know that someone wrote over here, what was the B word? I think you meant the V word, right? The vaccine, right?
The vaccine, yes.
Yeah.
I like the other V word, which is vulnerability. That's my new favorite word.
Oh yeah, that is a really good word. Which you really were tonight. Thank you so much. Someone asked me privately, is your dad and stepmom Jewish? And
so my dad,
Jewish?
Yeah, so my dad is Jewish. He was born in Israel. I left a lot of details about my life out. I have a speech on Torah anytime if you really want to hear the nitty gritty details of my parents' marriage and all of that stuff. The speech is called $1 Billion Diamond. It's when I go through, you know, the whole idea of, you know, this marriage that happened between my dad and my mom. So yes, my stepmom is Jewish. And this is why at 22, when I found out I wasn't halachically Jewish according to the Torah guidelines, I honestly was in shock because I had grown up, you know, working at the JCC. All my friends were Jewish. I was just Jewish according to anybody's standards. I was just Jewish. So this was a big shock to me, a big test. You know, we get tests in life sometimes. That's what happens.
Wow, that's so powerful. And your husband at the time also wasn't, you know, keeping everything.
No, he wasn't keeping very much, no, and he had a lot of piercings. We won't talk about them, but I'll let you use your
wanted to marry someone Jewish, right?
Yes, he grew up in a very traditional home, and his roots were very, very, very strong. He's a Sephardic a Sephardic man. His father's Iraqi and his mother's Moroccan. And even though they didn't keep necessarily the halachas around everything, they were very, very strong in their roots, and they were very strong in their desire for their children to marry other Jews. Do I say that that's the best idea in our generation? No. I don't think we have the same strength as our parents' generation to keep that as part of, the lineage. I think, that's a whole different topic. But this is why I'm saying, if you feel like you're late to the party, you probably are late to the party, but it's okay. Because being late to the party doesn't mean you can't join the party. It just means you have to work a little bit harder. Just means your kids need a little bit more from you to show them what it means to keep this chain linked. Because it's very easy to get distracted in this world away from Judaism. We all know what those things are, that gravity pull pulls us away. And so we have to fight harder. It's on our shoulders. But we can do it. We can do it.
That's really powerful. I guess that's with anything, right? With anything in our lives where, I was just mentioned like the working out, like starting to work out, starting to do exercises or any kind of exercises when you're working on any kinds of midot, on your character traits. It's really, really hard to start new. And it's sometimes it just feels like, if I start now, I'm never gonna make it to the end. Like I'm never gonna get there, but we do get there. It does, like I watched you've mentioned reading. I watched you read this morning. Like it's unreal. Like I can't even imagine even beginning something like that. And then, and that you actually read a whole line. Like that's unbelievable that someone can start at this stage in their life and really, and thrive and be successful. So that little person inside us saying, no, you can't do it. It's too much. It's too late. Don't listen. That's what Stacey's message is tonight, right?
Yes, 100%.
To really, to just say, no, Hashem is letting me in. He's the bodyguard. He's letting me in.
So I have a question, if it's okay.
Of course.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, Stacey, we have a mitzvah in the Torah to welcome the convert, right? It's repeated many, many times. Hashem is very strong in this. And my question is, do you feel, or have you ever felt not welcomed? And how that process, even I would say for Bali Chuvas, any of us, you said we're all converts, right? And we're all like a little late to the party. And will we ever feel like we're totally there? And how do you feel about that?
So I think it's a very real struggle. I can't sit here and tell you that I don't struggle with it on certain days. But I think even the people who are not late to the party struggle with always feeling like maybe they're not good enough. There's always a part of us that feels like we're late to the party, no matter how on time we are. And the struggle comes from the inner struggle. I sat before the Beit Din. I want you to imagine it's 6 rabbis. And if you ever imagined Hashem in your mind, it's like sitting in front of 6 of them. Okay. It's like 6 Hashems sitting on one side of the table and you're on the other. Like, talk about intimidation. I don't know. Maybe you guys would be much better than I was, but I was very intimidated, very scared, I felt not judged. They were not judgmental. It was the judgments on myself that weighed me down. It was being on the loops of the roller coaster of, you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to fit in. You're never going to be enough. You're never going, even if you start now, you're never, never, never. It was like I was in never, never land. But that wasn't because of anybody else. That was because of me. That was because of me. And if we put up strong fences in our life where we learn and we grow and we push ourselves, then really that voice doesn't belong there anymore. And I'm happy to say it's not very much a part of my life anymore. I've learned the gift of pushing that voice out And that comes from practicing, pushing it out. My whole job as a therapist is to help women push that voice out of their head. Get rid of it. It doesn't serve a purpose there. If it served a purpose, the manual, the Torah would tell us, keep it in there. But in fact, the manual, the Torah says, get rid of it. There's no room for guilt and shame in Judaism. None whatsoever. It will only serve to hold us back. And our job is to push forward.
Very, very powerful. Someone's asking a very, very, very important question. She's asking, what happens, like, your husband Eli was on the same page as you, and you were both really growing together, which is so helpful to have a support system. But what happens when you want to grow and the other person, your partner, doesn't want to be on the same page as you? How do you move? How do you be successful without your partner?
Okay. Such a good question. Such a good question. It's such a good question. I'll tell you why. Because there are lots of days that me and my husband are not on the same page. Lots of days. Lots of times through our relationship, through our marriage, I felt like I was sprinting and he wanted to slow down. I felt like I was one step ahead. He felt like he was 5 steps ahead of me. And we went through this eternal emotional battle all the time. And so what do I say when I work with young women in the Olami Seriously Sold program? It's an online seminary, and I get this question all the time. What do I do when the person I'm with doesn't want to move? Like they just are not interested. And I said, our job, I remember Rabbi Sitzer clearly telling me this to my face, our job is not to teach other people how to be Jews. Our job is to inspire, to motivate, and to mirror behavior that is happy. And when you inspire, mirror, and motivate people by your own happiness, they will want to come to that island with you. Remember, Otherness Island is the world that we grew up in, most of us. The Awesomeness Island is the land of Torah. And we're trying to get from otherness to awesomeness. So we see this boat and it's a big ship and it's coming to pick us up and we're all excited and we're telling our partner, come on, let's get on the boat. And they're like, I'm not getting on that thing. Are you crazy? Look at it. It's like the Titanic. We're going to hit an iceberg and I'm going to die. What's wrong with you? I'm not getting on there. I am not getting on that boat. Forget it. You go by yourself. And so what happens? We talk to our Rebbitzin and we say, Rebbitzin, I'm really having a struggle. My partner doesn't want to come along. What do I do? And you know what she says? Go to the island for a couple minutes, get some strength, get some motivation, get some tools, and then go back. Go back to otherness land and hold your husband's hand and say, you know what? When you're ready, I'm here. I'm going to keep going back and forth. I'm going to quietly do my thing. But when you're ready, I'm going to be here. And it's not so scary. You know why it's not so scary? Because as you can see, I'm happy. I'm happy. And I've learned that that is truly, truly how we motivate people. It is not by telling people what to do. It's by living a happy life with peace of mind. And everybody wants that. So they will want to come along eventually.
Right. That's so beautiful. It's very powerful. And it goes with anybody, with our children, anybody that's around us. You smile, people smile around you. When my kids are in a bad mood, we just put the music on and start dancing, and everybody starts dancing. Eventually we all are living it all together, right? We eventually, and sometimes it could take years, but that's okay. That's okay if it takes years. Everybody, there's no time with Hashem, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that are coming in. Are you okay to answer?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So someone asked a very good question. How do you find a mentor? How do you connect? How do you find a mentor that can help you? I know you mentioned mentor many times. And I just want to before I use this question, I want to share, not every Rebbitzin is for every person. You don't click with every person, and not every rabbi is for every person. Everybody finds their person that's good for them. But I was just listening to a podcast about it, and they were interviewing another Rebbitzin, and she was saying something so powerful, and I thought it was like really, I related to this. She said she really wants to connect with everybody in the community every day and every hour. I feel the same way. I really relate to this. I really want to connect with everybody. but it's just not it's just not possible, especially now with the lockdown and all our kids are home, right? But when someone calls her, there's time for her, and so if anybody wants a mentor, especially with, a Rebbitzin, sometimes you think, oh, they're too busy for this. They're not too busy. And if somebody reaches out to any Rebbitzin or to rabbi or to any teachers, they're waiting for your call and they're ready for you and they make time for you. So for sure, reach out to somebody that you connect with. Stacey, you want to take this also?
I would just piggyback onto what you said. Like, making excuses for the mentor is basically us not wanting to be vulnerable. Believe me, if we were drowning in a lake, we wouldn't be shy to ask for somebody to throw us a life preserver. Your mentors are your lifelines. They are your lifeguards. We are not meant to live on an island by ourselves, trying to navigate this thing called life without somebody to hold our hand. Women need mentors. It's part of who we are. It's existed since the beginning of time. And we can try and fight it all we want and say, our Rebbitzin's so busy. She has 13 children. You know what? My Rebbitzin calls me and I call her, and I'm not afraid to call her anymore because I know if she's busy, she's gonna tell me, I'll call you back. Wow, what a concept, I'll call you back. The hard part is what I call the barf in your mouth syndrome, which is like right before you're about to make that call, you're like ready to throw up because you're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. She's going to think I'm this. She's going to think I'm that. That's called running from vulnerability. And until we start practicing pushing through that feeling, we're missing out on our lifeline, which is mentorship. It is an essential part of the foundation of being a Jew. It is part of who we are. And we should not try to fight it. And like you said, not every person is going to match. If you want to know how to find a mentor, ask a teenager how to find Kim Kardashian. She'll tell you very quickly. You go on Instagram, you go on Google, you go on this, you go on that. They will find Kim Kardashian. Believe me, in 2 seconds, they will find Kim Kardashian. You will find your Rebbitzin. You just have to try. You just have to ask for a phone number, ask to meet for coffee. Those are the gems in our life, the gems, absolute gems in our life.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. So true. And if anybody wants to connect with me, with Stacey, with Jody, with any other Rebbitzin or rabbi, you can feel free to call us. I'll post my number here, or you could Facebook me or Facebook any of us, or on Instagram. You can find us on Thornhill with Shul, or NCSY. You can find us, and there's plenty of mentors there. And there's some really, really great Rebbitzins and rabbis out there that can really help out and to be there for each other. We're all learning from each other. I learn with Stacey, and I'm literally learning. We're learning together. We're growing together. It's not just only a mentorship. It's always we're pulling from each other, right? Someone's asking, once you're on that loop, how do you get off that loop especially when times are so difficult?
You have to write it out. My first reaction is you have to write it out. Like, when you're upside down, but you're upside down. That's the beauty of it. That you're in the middle of the loop, and that gravity is going to do its job, and you're going to be back right side up in about 0.1 minutes. In 10 seconds, you'll be back. Yeah. This is the roller coaster of life. Nowhere in the Torah does it say we're not going to be on that roller coaster. What it says is know how to navigate the roller coaster, know when to reach out for help, know when to get off, know when to get on, know when to put on the brakes, know when to make it faster. These are all tools that we learn when we learn Torah. We learn the pace of things. When things are really hard and they're painful, we have to know that Hashem is there to help us. And we have to ask him for help, Help me get myself right back up. I've fallen down. Help me get up.
Yeah. And I was just actually right before Passover, I was actually at a conversion of someone in our community. And the rabbi said, what's one of the mitzvot of Passover? And one of them is maror, which is bitter herbs. And the rabbi was saying it was so powerful to me to hear it, Judaism, we have bitterness in our lives, and Hashem, that's a big part of Judaism. There's not just the ups, there's also the downs, and there's bitterness, and Hashem is there even in the bitterness. And we have to find Hashem in the bitter times as well. It's not easy. Not easy. One more question I think I'm going to ask. Someone's asking just a personal question. And this is something that I think people can really relate to, is how did your parents and your in-laws react and respond to yours and Eli's growth journey, taking this new thing on? A lot of times people have this pushback from their families.
So on the day that I told my dad I was going to do the conversion process, he told me it was the worst day of his life. And he cried.
Wow.
And the day I got married and he watched me walk down the aisle, he said, "This is the best day of my life." My father's parents were Holocaust survivors, and he hadn't connected to his Judaism in such a long time. And, when my little kids come up and, tell him, "Zadie, why you're not wearing your kippah?" As much as it might annoy him a little bit, because he can be a grumpy old man sometimes, in his heart, he knows that this is what was meant to be. And we brought back this link that had been missing. We reconnected the link. And we're very lucky because of that. It is the Jews that we struggle with the most in our life. It's not the non-Jews. My aunt, who's a non-Jew from that side of the family, like on my first Shabbat, she brought me this beautiful box with a Shabbat tablecloth, Shabbat candle holders. Like, this was a non-Jewish woman. She was fully accepting of who I was. It was the Jews that I struggled with, unfortunately. And, those are challenges. Those are real challenges when we're starting to push ourselves further and further into our Judaism, and we're getting reactions from other people. It can really distract us. But if we know deep down in our hearts that this is what we're meant to be, and this is what we're meant to have in our life, this manual, this very important part of us, we're not going to be so quick to be distracted. So it's a matter of just practicing and pushing through and reaching out to your mentors 100%.
And also, I just want to add to, this evening is such an example that we're not alone. I just want to say we're all not alone. We're all in this together. And wherever we are in our Jewish journey, whether we're the mentor, the student, we're all students, right? We're all learning, as Frady so beautifully said. And it's just a beautiful reminder to be not judgmental of other people. You're always looking, just to get over it and to get past it and to realize, there's so much going on that we don't know about each other. Right. And it's not just, you don't just get what you see, right? You don't know. And so where someone's coming from in their journey. And so it's such a wonderful reminder to look at people with kind eyes. And so thank you for that.
Yes, that is so true, Jody. We, especially nowadays, and let that be of merit for all the people that are suffering in Israel and all over the world, that we should really just look at people with kind eyes and just see people, even if we think we know the whole story, and even if they told me the story that I'm telling you, I know for sure. You never really know. And sometimes people lie to tell you a story so that you won't really know what's really going on. So we really have to work so hard with our creative minds to try to think of another story and think of why this is happening and what's really going on, and to try to judge people properly and favorably. And that's so true, Jody. It's such a powerful thing to walk away from today, especially. Thank you, Stacey, so much for sharing your story, for being so vulnerable and sharing your growth and your journey, even if it was just a little bit. There's so much more. Stacey is so inspiring. And if you'd love to hear more about Judaism and the Torah, please feel free to join us at our Shul, Thornhill Shul. You can check us out, thwshul.com, ncsy.ca, and you can follow us on Instagram and see all the amazing programs that are happening. We have Rabbi Tatz joining us on Sunday. I posted it here on this chat. We have Rabbi Tatz speaking to us. He's an amazing, amazing speaker, very inspiring. We're constantly having beautiful speakers and inspiring events. So please join us and check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, and feel free to ask any questions. You can email us, thwshul.com. Check us out, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you, Stacey, and thank you, Jody.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.